private practice owners, it's time to change the status quo that's leaving us and our staff burned out and our patients dissatisfied because we don't have the time nor the energy to give them the care they deserve. Welcome to the Provider's Edge podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Rombach. If you're ready to rewrite the rules for your own practice so you can have more time off, a greater team, and more income while delivering better patient care, then join us for inspiring interviews with thought leaders in the medical industry. Each week, we discuss improvements to operational efficiency, reducing provider fatigue, increasing access to meet patient expectations, and introducing the next generation of healthcare innovation. This is your defining moment to be a disruptor in healthcare. Hi, everyone. Can you believe it? We are 100 episodes in, and then we're rebranding. So as you can see, we are Provider's Edge now going forward instead of the powerful, passionate healthcare professional. Now, we can still be powerful in our career and passionate in our own life, but we are focusing on the people who have stepped outside their boundary, leaving the safety net of being an employee, and created their own private practice and growing into their own vision and mission and cause to serving our community. And today, what we're talking about is that feminine energy. Now, we know both men and female can have feminine energy. Do you know what are some of those things that you embody? And do you know how to leverage their power? As CEOs, especially females, we tend to exhibit more masculine traits as we're competing in this exhausting type of environment where we wanted to show up as experts. Yet we can really truly be powerful as a woman CEO and create that 10 times of growth with your feminine energy. And that's why we invited Melissa here. She is the go-to intimacy expert for business women who helps powerful CEO women use their feminine energy as a 10-time growth strategy. And her clients are able to produce more while doing less by mastering their feminine CEO. So stay tuned until we have this amazing discussion. And thanks, Melissa, for being here.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to have this discussion with you today, Sabrina.
Yes, and I know you came from a really interesting story as how you blossom into your position today, and also helping women in these tough environments to not just continue to fight against ourselves, but really tap into who we are. So I would love for you to share a little bit more about your background. How did you get here?
Yeah, I think that my passion for supporting women to experience deep fulfillment actually started before I was born, because my ancestry line, particularly my female lineage, is full of stories of women like many of us, right? Women who were disempowered, who were subject to all kinds of horrible conditions in life that they were expected to just be happy with and deal with. And they did it like really well. Good girl syndrome is a real thing, right? It's like, and so I look at those ancestors and I think from a very young age, I felt like there has to be more than staying small and meek and quiet and faithful and good and completely miserable on the inside. And so throughout my life, as different circumstances have come in and out of my life, there's always been that fire, which I think many of us in our generation can relate to, of like, oh, no, I'm not going to do this the way, not to dishonor them, actually to empower them and to tell them, like, I will do this in ways that you couldn't do this. And so seeing that, one of the major things that I began to see over and over when I opened my practice is business women, and how it's almost like the higher steps we take into our own success and our own impact that we're making in the world, the more we are put into the public eye as a target for judgment and condemnation. And all of a sudden, everyone has opinions about how we're running our life and how we're doing things right or wrong, good or bad. And because that, those societal misogynistic ways of seeing women actually are still very existent. And it's not men against women. It's actually a whole societal construct that has affected our men as well as our women. So that's where my passion really comes from, in supporting women in a deep level, even with their intimacy, even with their feminine energy, with these parts of ourselves that we have felt we have to push away because we've had to be so tough out here in this world.
So well said. I definitely relate to you what you're saying. It's a societal thing. It's something that connects to all of us. It doesn't matter what gender we play or what sexuality we end up picking. It's our own preferences, yet how we are showing up in the world tend to be judged, whether you're a mom or not, whether you wanted to be a career woman and have no child. That shouldn't have been affected by anybody else's opinion. However, as women, you get married or you're in a relationship, the next immediate thing is, when do you get married? Once you get married, somehow it's just immediately, when do you have a kid? And somehow that is the only expected and only happiness that by societal moments, that's what people want to hear, expected you to do. Mm-hmm. And then for many people who are on the spectrum of, actually, I want to live and have a career and that satisfies me, that's who I am, versus those to say, hey, I can be a mom and as well as running my practice, seeing my patients, being that provider in my community. I can have both, right? It's our choices to make those decisions to be there, mm-hmm. but it doesn't have to be taken away to say I am fighting against so many different barriers. I think that's a super crucial topic to even talk about, like any moment of our life. Mm-hmm. It's just that this moment now, especially with COVID pandemic, when there's a Indeed study shown that about 95% people who quit their job have said this is the time that they realized they have to do something more meaningful in their life, more purposeful mm-hmm. driven. And it definitely makes us think more about where we headed, why are we being here right now, and then how are we presenting ourselves? So how do you suggest people to even go about that, like to really tapping into what that feminine energy even is?
Well, there's a lot of confusion out there about it. And I would say now we have unique pressures on women because it is more socially acceptable that a woman would have a career as well as a family. And yet the pressures have shifted in such a way that it's like, yeah, you should have that all and you should do everything. So we find ourselves in this position of being stretched so thin, right? It's like, okay, well, I'm full-time. I'm running my own business. I have, all these employees and team members to answer to. And then I get home, I'm in charge of the housekeeping. I'm in charge of the kids' schedules and signing the teachers' forms and whatever. I'm in charge of, the meals and the pressures have kind of changed, right? Because then it's like, oh, she has a housekeeper. Why can't she just do her own housekeeping? Or, oh, right? Or for someone like you, Sabrina, where it's like, oh, she doesn't have a family yet. Like, it's just crazy. So I think that it's so important that we have these conversations. And that's like the first step, right? Is really even asking ourselves, particularly as women, what have I adopted from parents, from, church, etc., from my whole upbringing about what it means to be a good woman. And this might seem like some trivial, like, oh, we've had these conversations, like we're past this. But no, when I work with my clients, these are the ones that are the most deeply ingrained that we don't even realize we're still doing. And it can come from things that your mother did, can also come from things that your mother didn't do, right? About what it means to be a good woman. And I use that phrase in particular because it's so morally charged, right? like if you're not doing those good things, then therefore you're bad. And we literally on an unconscious level are saying those things to ourselves. So it's taking some of those, looking at those things, and then being able to ask ourselves, wait, is that still how I want to operate in my life, right? For example, one of my clients owns a real estate brokerage. And she has come up against time and time again this belief that to be a good woman, she needs to be a caretaker of everyone around her, right? So as she is running her team and her agents are coming to her and things, it's like, I have to really caretake for these people. So when we first started working together, she was exhausted and so burnt out. And that creates some deep resentment, right? When everybody is turning to you, they want to just like take and take and take everything from you, right? Even though she's friggin' good at it, it's like, it became self-sacrificing. That's another very common thing for women, is we have to be completely self-sacrificing. So as we started doing this work together and we started just asking her what she wanted, who did she feel was the best version of her, and what it meant for her version of a good woman, or even drop the good, like what's the true nature of you and your most powerful version of yourself. And it actually was not that. As she started to pull away, it was a little scary, right? Because everyone around her was like, why aren't you checking in on me like 24/7? And why aren't you like, taking care of all my little needs, every little thing, right? But then on the flip side, she started to see agents become more self-reliant, more self-sufficient, more self-motivated, more innovative, more visionary, because she was no longer right there being everything for them. So there's some real big benefits, even just in the business world, to looking at and carving out space for who we believe we're meant to be. Doing that work matters.
Right. And then what you're talking about is matches what I typically tell my client. In a way, in healthcare, is the same thing. We have to really truly find freedom, and that freedom is only can be created by, yes, your strength, right? In your client's example, she's so good at solving other people's problems. But if we're too good at solving everybody's problem, especially in healthcare, we already came into the career to say, I want to help people. And somehow in that speaking in that exact words, actually we're feeding ourselves that language in the back of our head, right? Our subconsciousness, I have to help. And then it becomes no matter what, I have to help. But that actually become a disinterest. That actually drag us down, killing ourselves from building that excitement and momentum to keep going. So instead of what does that mean to have that true strength and desire, that you can actually go into that higher level of functionality, right? What you ask her is, who are you, right? As women, not even have the good in front of it, right? And for us, is who are you as a person, as a woman, as even a man, without attaching a title of a provider, a doctor, or whatever title you have assigned to yourself. You're not just those titles. You are who you are. So if we can really go into that desire, that strength part, and also not get swayed by the distractions, right? The things where like, oh, this seems to be great. That should help me, right? The should, could is not definitive. It has to be something that's so clear to you, and then it's who you are. And I think that's a very crucial point that you brought out. So how do people actually figure out what are the things that they embody that are feminine energy versus more masculine?
Well, I love that question. And the first thing I want to do there is define what is feminine energy, what is masculine energy, what the crap are we talking about here? A better way to sort of easily frame this is to take gender out of it. And it's yin is feminine and yang is masculine. So we're talking about ancient principles that have existed, for thousands of years here. And the thing is we live in a masculine or yang heralded society. And the way that we can tell is that from the get-go, right, from the moment we opened our eyes, we were praised for what we could accomplish, what we could achieve, how driven and focused we were, for the progress that we could make, and really nothing else, right? So the yin side of that, right? If we're looking, this is like a polarity equation, right? Where just like you would have a positive and a negative charge, there's always going to be those pieces to balance out. But no one ever told you as a kid, like, I'm so glad that you're taking this time to rest. Right? or wow, just the way that you be is enough. I value you simply because you exist, right? This is some of the yin energy. It's a being rather than always feeling like we have to do. And I think that this conversation for healthcare providers and owners of practices is so vital because just the very nature of your work is masculine energy, and it requires you to drum up a lot of masculine energy. And that's simply a fact. You can't just float through your day, right? But there are some key ways to support the bringing out and drumming out of more feminine energy. So the way that I like to look at this is like a riverbed, where the riverbed itself is masculine energy. It's yang energy, right? It's the container. It's strong. It's secure. It's got a focus. It knows where it's going. And then the water that flows through the riverbed is that yin or feminine energy. And if we can build our lives in such a way where there's enough structures in place, then we can be the water that flows through, right? So, things like being very scheduled and structured and things like this are very supportive for you to then relax and let go and go, okay, now I can just go with the flow through my day. Making sure that you have the right supports in place in terms of teammates and things like that, right? So you're not having to be dammed up, if we're using this riverbed analogy, by cancellations or various different things. You've got systems in place for people to take care of those things so that you can still be in that flow. And I think that is more crucial for healthcare providers than maybe any other industry out there.
Right. And it's such a key point. Like when I talk about efficiency, right, this whole podcast is about efficiency, gaining personal efficiency and practice efficiency. And really then we can optimize everybody around us. We can create synergy. And that need to be done by creating systems for things that won't change, right? If you have something in place, then it will just run itself. And then we can change the human touch part, right? That's what gave us the excitement. That's what gave us the drive to go to the next level. And because the mundane things is taken care of, and now we can think about what are these systems we need to put in place. Is that when patient come to us initially, how do we even talk to them? Or is it during the process of us discussing the treatment plans and to the final point for them to really trust you enough to say, yes, let's do it. And then also aftercare, right? When we don't see them, how are they actually doing their own help and need? And all those touch points can be systemized if we actually put in the time right? In the beginning, it might be a little hurdle to see what fit into your personality, your practice, the talents among the A players that you created, and also understand not everyone is gonna be A players for your team, and they might be A players somewhere else. And so it's okay to also let those people go as well. So all these systems can be really helpful, just like what Melissa said. We first have to figure out what are these some things we can even put in place to decrease all that stress. And that's such a great point.
And then in that, once you have those, then the work literally becomes internal, and it's more about your perspective than it is about what's happening around you, right? It's the ability to show up and say, oh, I don't have to be worried. I don't have to do a bunch of like advanced preparation. I already know what I need to know in order to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of in this day. And then I would add a huge and very vital key to accessing more of our feminine energy is being very efficient and strategic about creating space in our lives. So in a real kind of metaphysical way, if you just look around the room that you're in right now, you notice what you see. You only see the objects in the room. No one's eye ever goes to the empty space between the objects, right? Like we're just not trained to value space. That's not in the realm of what we think about at all. But in the space in between, particularly when we talk about our lives, even in the space between each breath, there's opportunity to pause and recenter and go back and tap into the truth of who you really are, right? I think back in like olden times when we were just living like hunter-gatherers, and how much quiet and space there probably was for humans, right? To just be in nature, to just focus on the present moment. But we don't live in that kind of environment. We have to create those spaces. And there's a lot of really neat studies and things that have been done about the space that we give ourselves. So meditation is one strategy, right, to create that space, but it's not the only strategy. I personally don't love scheduling meditation at a certain time every day. I just don't like to be that scheduled, especially with my free time. But it's little things like pausing between each patient and noticing your breath, doing mindfulness things like feeling the feeling of your feet in your shoes, taking time to be outside every day, taking time to listen within. And another great way is actually listening to our own internal discomfort. So often when we operate in only yang or masculine energy, we completely ignore, we're like living NECA only. So we're all in our head. But there's all these messages happening in our body, right? Like you might get tight shoulders because something made you uncomfortable, or your stomach is growling. You didn't even notice how hungry you were, right? Or or other discomforts like, wow, someone just said something and it triggered me. And it's like I don't even have time to consider that. So I may not even realize that triggered me until like the weekend, right?
Right. And then that's the crucial thing, is that we stop listening to ourselves.
Yes.
And then our body actually knows better. But when we're just keep going and we give ourselves the excuse of, well, I still have 5 more patients to see. The day is almost ending, right? Where I'm so backed up, people are late. And it seems like we always have to make up some kind of excuse just to keep going and not let us stop. And that's one thing when Melissa was saying, oh, some people can't fit in meditation. Correct. Not everybody can have 10, 20 minutes just like going to a quiet place and do all that. And that's why I promote these 2 minutes mental vacation, right? You can do whatever for that 2 minutes. And the mindfulness can just be, I grab a coffee, I feel the warmness, I smell the coffee aroma, right? Even just notice these touch point of your sensory, your olfactory, right? Your visualization of how like this swirling around of the spoon, all of that takes you away from the chaos that no matter we created or the environment created. And that sets up into a better place. And instead of good point, right, Melissa? You're like hours, days later, you're like, oh, should I have said that? Oh, maybe I could have done that, right? And then we start judging ourselves instead of saying, actually, the day is pretty good. If I've seen 20 patients, that's amazing, right? If I'm running around doing surgery, doing all this, right, procedures, and then what? We just like bend down, hunch over. Just I definitely know myself when I was much younger, right? When I just started, when you come out of grad school, that was hours of hunch over, right? Like writing exam papers, all that stuff. And then going to real life and surgery, you're so tense. You're like, oh my gosh, people's lives in my hand, right? And you create this anxiety. And that's why I remember I was going to acupuncture, chiropractic, massage therapy. I mean, all that's consistently. Not to say I don't do it now. I still consistently do them. But now it's really, I just need a reset. I don't wait until I have pain to do these. I'm doing it for myself, right? Like, and I'm not waiting for the right moment to actually allow myself to get to the better place. And I think all of us need to see that it's not just about putting oxygen mask on first, it's that on a daily basis, what can we do for ourselves and not give excuse of, I just have too much to do. I just have too many things I need to get done, right? Like, because we all know when we make a goal, we're so good at hitting that goal. But right after that, that happiness achievement of finishing that goal don't last that long. And we already have 10 other goals that we set, right? It's always a moving target.
And this is where, and if you don't mind that we go to this place, I do a lot of work around intimacy. And this whole conversation is so pertinent to intimacy because being so out of balance in our yang or masculine energy is an automatic shutdown to our sex drive. All of a sudden, we're looking at our relationships, whether it be sex or whether it just be like connection and time spent together, right? As like a checklist to do item that we don't have time for. And so doing this kind of work for ourselves also sets us up in a position to be more open and receptive to the relationships in our lives, which can be a major source of fulfillment. So if we're running our lives and we're desiring deeper fulfillment, this is the key. It's first to begin to allow some feminine energy into your life and find that true divine expression, your natural expression of what that is. And then, there is some more space and openness for you to be curious about pleasure and curious about your partner and what makes them tick and be able to notice the nuances of your children, their freckles, and how they got so excited about some silly little like thing that they found, a little bug or whatever it is, right? Like the magic of life comes back when we give ourselves some of this breathing space. And the thing about this is that we cannot wait for others to give us this permission or give us this space because it will never come. I think we all know people who just work themselves straight to the grave, right? The only person who will advocate for this for you is you. And once you define where that flow is, like you've done so beautifully in your life, Sabrina, once you really define that space, everyone just knows that's how you operate. They just respect you for it.
Right. That's about boundary. When you talk about space initially, I think all of us can relate. When you go to a house, the house has higher ceiling or the cathedral, you automatically feel lifted, right? Lighter. It's like, wow. And you actually notice that space. Yes, our eyes might be capturing, if you're in a cathedral, these special window, right? And the sculptures, and same thing at a house. Yes, maybe your eyes are going to those big open window. However, you're actually, yes, that's what your eyes seeing, but what you're feeling is that space that's created, allowing you to have the room to grow. And the same thing is actually when we create boundary, that's giving us more space, because we are now allowing people to push into this space of us, right? Like we have so much room that we want, and then I'm creating a bubble that's safety or happiness, and then don't pop my own bubble, right? You go create your own bubble. And it can be hard at sometimes, and that's why it's okay just to say, I'm a human, this is my way, and then I honor my way. My way doesn't have to look at and the same or similar to all these people I look up to. I just have to find my own natural path and the desire zone that we all continues to talk about. So for all the speakers on the show, I love it. They have so much amazing knowledge. We can't even fit it for a half hour. But we also know we have different area of our life that we continue to work on. It's not to say we need to be 10 out of 10 in everything, right? That's right. Why being a perfect human when it's not exciting anymore? And so, Melissa, do you remember when you look at those 10 categories, what are something that jump up in your life?
10 categories of life?
Yeah.
That jump out in the sense of what?
Sense of when are you surprised in some areas that you feel like, hey, I'm very strong in, but maybe I actually are not connected the same way that I thought, or, oh, these are areas that I'm always go back to because I know these are my core foundation.
I love the analogy of the wheel, because it's like, to me, it's a day by day, evaluating and looking at that and kind of going, oh, okay, can the wheel roll though? But can the wheel roll? I recently had a big, to be vulnerable, I had a big like aha around, I decided to download the steps app finally onto my phone that tracks your steps. I have resisted all this time because I've been like, I don't want my phone telling me my steps. And it's been like 5 days. And I was like, oh, this is a big wake up call. Like, I'm not taking very many steps in these last several days. A couple times I just didn't take my phone with me, but I was like, oh, okay, like there's some room here. And I think that it's, that's been the case for me always, is just seeing, can the wheel roll? There are times when I get so passionate in a project in my business that like I want to work on it all the time. And then I kind of go, oh, like this child, so I have 4 kids, this child's looking a little sad, like maybe they need a little more attention here or there, and so again, we just go back, reevaluate. It's a day by day thing.
Correct. It's totally a day by day thing. And I so appreciate you sharing with us that part of like even tracking our step, right? I have my Fitbit on me usually all the time, and sometimes even to sleep, like just to see the quality. Did I actually get to where I need to go, or at least like average, right? And to really think about different ways that I can even put my body into the right place too. I so appreciate you. I'm sure people is gonna want to talk to you more about how to redefining and tap more into that feminine side of them, so they can be even more powerful as a provider, as a leader for them team, and running their practice as an entrepreneur. So how can they reach out to you the best?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn, but I also, you can go to my website at www.melissakeenan.com, which is MELISAKEENAN.com. And there you'll find, I have a couple of free resources, and I also run an interview series called Chronicles of the High Powered Female CEO, where I interview 7+ figure business women. So may be pertinent to your audience as well to go check that out.
Awesome. Yes, I so appreciate you for all the free resources and all the amazing conversation we had today. And for everybody else, this Sunday we have our healthcare disruptor think tank that's happening at 5 p.m. Eastern and virtually, and it's limited for 30 participants, where we come together with the purpose to collaborate, because we all know if you want to go far, you can go alone. If you really truly join power with other people, then you can create the shortest distance to get to where you need to go, because we can compound on each other's time, resources, and their network as well. So come join us at sabrinarumback.com/community. And I understand it's Mother's Day. We can take an hour, just chit chat with other people who are in the space, leaders in the healthcare, entrepreneurs, and who wanted to create something amazing all together. And you can still go back to have a great dinner with moms in the family. All right. Thank you guys for being here and for being amazing, and keep following us. We go live on Tuesday or Thursdays, and then our podcasts drop on Wednesdays. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You're listening to me right now. Odds are you're frustrated by how healthcare practices are running today. I'm with you. I'm looking to change the conversation that we're having in this field. It starts with me, and it starts with you. I want to connect with you and get to know your own struggle or challenges within the healthcare industry. Visit sabrinarumback.com/connect, where you are going to find all of my social media platforms. Feel free to send me a direct message. If you, like me, prefer speaking, then you can record a voice message on the page. Additionally, I can get you an exclusive invitation to one of my monthly collaboration think tanks that are limited to 30 healthcare disruptors. So come to sabrinarumback.com/connect and